Dovetail time. Top's done. The bow ties are inlaid. Now I'm going to cut the dovetails for the carcass. I'm going to do them all by hand, by eye. It's going to be a little rhyme or reason to it so they look like they're handmade. Okay, first thing I'd like to explain is the setting of my gauge for my tails. I always set the pin 64th or 32nd above the material I'm working on. That way, when the joint is applied together, I get a little bit of overlay on both sides, and it allows me to plane it down and get rid of imperfections and clean it up. A little bit random. And we'll move on down the line, just marking them out. I mark my waist. Exactness is not a big issue right now, but I am going to try to keep them all even. I'm going to mark down and around and get the mark all the way around them and mark my waist all the way around. I'm going to do a practice piece, plus I can put some lines on it so you can see it a lot better. Just a little mock-up piece of pine. Now keep in mind, when you do the tails first, where they are and where they land is not critical, because you're going to mark that to the pin board, and then the pin board cut becomes critical. The only critical part is that you keep them absolutely square, and when you start the cut, you're committed. If your angle gets a little deep or a little shallow, it's fine. It's a tail. You're going to cut it out and you're going to mark it on the other board. It doesn't matter. I like to take a little clip out of my waist side. That allows me to start my saw. Then I set one set of lines. This line and this line are straight up and down. Okay? That way I can saw straight down, not at an angle. I developed my muscle memory in my arm to where when I spin all that, it's straight up and down. I don't have to cut at angles. It's a little bit extra step. Some people do it, some people don't. It helps me in my cut. This is the show side, or the face side of the board. This is where the most important cut is. I'm going to start my saw. I'm basically going to remove the line. I'm cutting to the top and to this line here. Once I do, then I can finish it out. Looking at the back side, and make sure I'm tracking. And I'm done. There again, starting my cut, watching the line, removing the line, cutting across the top, straight, watching as it drops. Once I'm there, then I turn my saw and I finish my cut. Using my vise, I'm going to get this other one straight up and down, tighten it back. Now I can at least remove the waist on the outside of the tail. Made my pin, my little clip mark. It gives me a knife wall for my saw to ride in. That way I'm sure that the waist, the kerf of the saw rides towards the waist. I'm cutting the faces I can see. The top face and the face of the board. Once I get across that, then the saw will naturally go down its own curve that it's created. pins, the tails cut out. And now I'm going to do the edges. Now, these are my worst enemy right here, because the shoulder has to be absolutely square all the way around, and it's really a hard cut to make for me. My lines are made, my knife wall is made. This I'm going to try to leave the line, because I can sweeten it up with a chisel. We're going to say that this is the face side. I always like to do my face side first, if at all possible. I don't use a coping saw. You could fret saw. Hey, if it works for you, that's great. I prefer the chisel. Alright, now because I have where the marking gauge left the mark on the edge, I'm going to set the chisel inside of that. Lightly tap it, stick the chisel down, take a little out, just a touch. Now I'm trying to use as wide a chisel as I can to get as much of a straight line as possible. Now I lean my chisel in just a little bit. Bite out. Notice I'm leaving this front side, and there's a reason for that. Take another bite out of it.
Now, I'm going to release it, and we're going to flip it.
Half inch back out. Now, this being the back side, it's not that important, but I like to keep it neat and as clean as I can. I'm not going to really worry about keeping it absolutely pristine, because it is the back side. Now this first lick, I'm going to take a little bit out that way, and then I'm going to show you what we're doing next. Took a big bite there. Now, because I left the inside of this waist down here, I'm able to get, alright, that quarter is going to be a little too thick, so we're going to move over to an 1/8. Pop it out. Put my half inch back in there, leaning in a little bit, take out a bite, put the quarter in there, pull the key out. And she's free. That's it. That would be the face side, and that would be the back side. That's my way of laying out tails, cutting tails, and removing the waste from tails. I'm sure in these four corners I'm going to have some arrows, and I'm going to show you some of my repair methods for getting through that, and some things along those lines. But hang with me. I know these are long. I was kind of wanting to get into a little bit more detail on this series about what I do, because I get a lot of questions. Maybe I'll cover them. I'm sorry if I'm boring you. More to come. Hang around.